everyone, and welcome to a brand new Versus Talk. Today we're having Edward Elric versus Harry Potter. The similarities are huge. So huge. Yes, I am explaining the similarities for this. Then after that, I will talk about other things, like the Champions Poll winners, on what are my thoughts on them, and other stuff. Anyway, here are the connections between Harry Potter and Edward Elric.
Both suffered an immense tragedy in their youth, relating to the loss of their mother. This event would forever link a piece of their person with a pair. Noseless ethereal figure who continued to haunt them for years to come. This link would eventually act as a cosmic tether to a lily-white limbo beyond gradation, life and death. This connection to the figure gave them innate abilities that were considered abnormal even within their supernatural magic systems. Ed's ability to bypass transmutation circles and Harry's ability to speak Parselton. They are left physically scarred by this meeting. The physical defects that this event brings will go on to serve as the basis for their iconic nicknames within their future community. This event leaves a cosmic mark upon them that designates their numerical importance within their story's final act. Ed seeing the truth and being appointed as one of Father's 5 human sacrifices. And Harry being implanted with Voldemort's soul, becoming one of his 7 Horcruxes. From that point on, both grow up as tragic orphans. Though they initially believe that there is no hope of changing their lives. They are introduced to a hierarchical institution that specializes in the scientific study of their power system after a surprise visit from an individual connected to the institution. They enroll in these institutions, intent to further expand their knowledge of their innate power system. This power system is distinctly supernatural and based on real-life medieval mythology. Though subverted within their series due to the emphasis placed on its scientific and personified applications. Both are teenagers during the events of their stories. During their time within these institutions, they forge a number of bonds that bolster one of the main themes of their stories. Among these allies are their scarily strict, but deeply compassionate teacher who carries the trauma of their lost loved one and how their status as a supernatural practitioner marks the tragedy of that relationship. Minerva McGonagall and Izumi Curtis. The gentle giant who is initially assigned to accompany them, and were punished within their institution for morally questionable reasons. Their sharp-tongued, black-haired superior who is particularly gifted in the field of alchemy and whom both frequently butt heads with. While these characters appear frigid, and can commit questionable actions based on their past trauma, both Ed and Harry hold a personal appreciation for them towards the end of the series. The bookish brunette whose impeccable memory has many times gotten them and their friends out of trouble. The foreign-born woman who is at first antagonistic but later ally. Who displays immense devotion for their love interest despite him being afflicted by a curse that threatens to shift his psychology into a split between his original self and something inhuman. The institutional ally who ranks highly in the government, and plays a double agent within the conspiracies to undermine Harry and Ed. The eccentric, wise old figure with a tragic past and a connection to the main antagonist's more innocent form. Both of these older figures inherited great powers from their former, villainous allies and are considered 2 of the strongest practitioners of their power system to ever live. Behind the scenes, they have been operating to foil the antagonist's evil plots for years. Serving as the direct counterpart for the antagonist's ideology but with a deeply disturbing secret that links them to it. At differing points, both Harry and Ed come to resent them for their habit of questionable communication. They also have a closely knit surrogate family, with an eccentric matriarch who serves as their primary maternal figure and a spunky teen girl who ends up being their love interest, Winry Rockbull and Ginny Weasley. By the end of the series, both have officially married into this family, but their surrogate status within it was never in any doubt. Both must fight against the overarching antagonist, a madman of questionable humanity who has split his soul into 7 pieces. Holds disdain for those that lack their intrinsic power and wishes to ascend to the peak of their power system through the usage of a mythical concept in their setting. Father. Absorbing the eye of God and Voldemort gaining possession of the Elder Wand. These figures once took on different names, as well as more innocent identities. Both's initial adventure involves them attempting to foil the schemes of a two-faced antagonist who has tricked those around him and is obsessed with her. Philosopher's Stone. Both of these characters are connected to the overarching antagonistic force, who are using them for their own gain. Both eventually find themselves in an expansive, supernatural area that exists thanks to the actions of a bigoted but storied figure who looks down on those who don't have their power and was responsible for the founding of Harry and Ed's enrolled institutions. There, they battle this figure's scaly green monster, whose existence represents the bigoted history around their setting, Envy, who reveals that it was them who started the Ishvalan Civil War, and the Basilisk, who's revealed to have been the monster that was petrifying those with impure blood both years ago and now. Both eventually learn of the immense evil committed by a man they at first had a high opinion of, who is secretly linked with the transmutation of humans and animals. Both of these antagonists had a heavy hand in the events of an incident that would be among the most traumatic to both Edward and Harry, Peter ratting out Harry's parents to Voldemort and Tucker, transmuting Nina and Alexander into a chimera. They face off against the main antagonist early in the story, and manage to come out relatively unharmed despite being clearly outclassed. This meeting reveals strange truths about their unique abilities and how the antagonist is capable of stripping those away, Father being able to completely shut down Ed's ability to transmute and Voldemort bypassing Lily's love protection. This meeting also involves them losing a close ally, whom they'd previously had a friendly rivalry with, at the hands of the antagonist. However, despite this apparent loss, they still manage to make contact with this ally's subconscious feelings. In the aftermath of this clash, both find themselves operating under the ever-watching eye of a tyrannical authoritarian who works for the government and currently holds significant control over their enrolled institution, King Bradley and Dolores Umbridge. However, this threat is eventually neutralized by their allies, if only for the moment Umbridge being dragged off into the forest by centaurs and Bradley seemingly perishing after his train exploded. An event set up by L.T. Grumman. Both of these figures return in the final act of their story. Both find that the government institution that governs their world is heavily compromised by their enemies. Though they learn this relatively early in the story, Ed learning that the government has bad actors hiding within around the time of the incident at Laboratories 5. And Harry growing disillusioned with the Ministry after they refuse to acknowledge Voldemort's return. They eventually come to find that the situation is far worse than they thought, Edward realizing that everyone within Bradley's inner circle is serving the homunculi. And Harry hearing that Voldemort and the Death Eaters have seized total control of the Ministry. These compromised governments have some very thinly veiled Nazi parallel.
There's so many things you can do for the animation potential. You can have their spells / lightning work up against each other pretty well. And you can even have a death that involves both of their abilities. Apparently it's fair. So, if Edward Elric is weaker than Aang, and Harry Potter is weaker than Luke Skywalker, then that just depends on who would win in a fight between Luke Skywalker and Aang. And unfortunately, I think Luke would win thanks to his force powers, but Harry loses to him, so he's less powerful than Luke. Then Edward Elric would lose to Aang, making him somewhat in the same ballpark as Harry. I could hear it going either way, but I mostly hear Harry wins. I don't know why, but Anyway, on to the other stuff. So, the Champions Poll winners have been Cole McGrath versus Alex Mercer and Bill versus Discord. I already did a prediction on Bill versus Discord. I'm afraid that I might get major backlash for it. Oh, because of the winner, I said. The agreed upon winner in Versus is Discord. But this just made me laugh. Someone said that Multiversal and Universal is a bigger gap than Aquabob and some other fight. An Omnilander. How is that a bigger gap? Really, dude? Building versus Planet and probably City versus Multiversal. Anyway, Aang was done incredibly dirty in his episode against Aang, and yeah, both of them are teenagers that balance the elements and have a tendency of not to kill. Just why couldn't you put Aang up against Batman, even though the fight sounds kind of dumb? Yeah, it's dumb. But, yeah. The other Full Metal Alchemist fight that is likely has to be Alphonse versus Nezuko and Roy versus Levi. Apparently, Alphonse wins against Nezuko, which I call infinite bullcrap on. Well, it just depends on who would win between, Edward and Tanjiro. Yeah, you might say, yeah, that could work, but it will never happen. So let's compare them. So they scale above them, I believe. And if one of them scales to the loser, then that would eventually mean that they're the winner. Anyway, I think Tanjiro would win that fight. Like, he fights demons. Demons. Horn people. Horns. Get it? Horns. Anyway. The other hairy match I see is Percy Jackson. I hear it's one-sided. I hear Percy is the one who stomps. But, someone told me Harry would win. I have no idea who to believe at this point. And I thought of this Edward Elric idea. Somehow I thought of Frogma versus Edward Elric. Because both of them are kids that were basically normal living until one day they lose their arm and it gets replaced by another one. And their siblings die. That's it. I don't know if it's a good matchup, and I don't know if I should post it on, and by I mean post it, I mean show it to people. Oh, I technically just did. Dang it. So let's talk about other stuff now. So, as funny as it is, my Spinella versus Mommy Longlegs video almost has 600 views. I'm not kidding. It has over 500 views, almost 600. I have no idea why it's so popular, but hey. Do you want me to do more Steven Universe? Do you want me to do more Who Wins? I don't know what you guys want. Like, is it Poppy Playtime? Is it Steven Universe? Is it more Who Wins? Is it more of me telling stories about stuff? Or is it just because Poppy Playtime is trending? Anyway, there's a few more minutes before we get to the winner of this fight. Oh, this video was originally supposed to be, I ideas that are very interesting, but are not very popular. But I decided to do a versus talk. This is the last one of the year, and hey, my New Year's video is coming out. I hope you enjoy it. No, I'm not going to be doing a preview, but yeah, it's going to be pretty good. I'm going back on stuff, and I've even shown you stuff that will appear in 2023 of next year. But when I did the countdown, it wasn't very good. But anyway, you're just going to have to deal with that. Dang it, I gave you a spoiler. Dang it! Anyway, Nezuko, so how do I do fights that they could scale to other characters? I say, it just matters on who would win between blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, Doc Ock versus Mr. Freeze. It just depends on who would win between Spider-Man and Batman, and Spider-Man would win because he's far faster and also far stronger. Oh, I hear, like, every single Broly or Asura fight that I've seen that is not Atrocitus, well, that's the most popular one now, was Broly. People wanted that match so freaking bad. But instead they did Hulk versus Broly. Like, they said it was a popular request. Who could blame them? Oh, by the way, I want to tell you some Death Battle fun facts. So, in the Carnage versus Lucy commentary, spoilers ahead, Ben said if people were expecting a Carnage matchup, people would expect it to be Alex Mercer. But we are saving Alex Mercer to fight Cole McGrath. He said that. He said that. Go watch the commentary. I think it's in the Lucy part. But, just a warning for viewers that are not gonna like it or are big fans of Carnage. That has stuff in it. But, you have been warned. He just has... Why isn't it restricted? They did it with Jason versus my... Okay, just forget that I said that. Anyway, so back to Harry Potter versus Edward Elric for a bit. This fight is very interesting. Like, I counted 38 similarities. And I have no idea if that's real, but I guess. That is over the limit of anything that the Death Battle crew could do. Like, that is a lot of connections. I think it should happen. I think this should happen more than Percy Jackson, because Edward was done dirty. I don't know if they would do Ragna. Ragna versus Velvet exists. You might say they've done fights that have not been requested, but they have an alternative fight that, dang. But you might say, oh, they've done highly requested, or maybe they've done some matchups that not many people asked for, but they prefer other matches for. So Harry versus Percy is pretty good. No, it isn't. Apparently Percy stomps, but I have heard arguments for Harry, but Percy stomps because of water. He controls freaking water, and water is in your veins / blood, so Harry is basically done for. Plus, this has 2 returning combatants that were done. Okay, so Harry needs to come back, because this episode was a long time ago, and bad. And Edward Elric was done pretty dirty, and his episode was bad. it was very bad. Like, really, dude? Short jokes. Yeah, Edward is focused on his height, but he's not that focused. And plus, yeah. So it just depends on who would win between Aang and Harry Potter. It just, I don't know what style fight. I would kind of have to give the win to Aang. It's another Harry loss. I don't care. And I don't want that fight. No offense for the people that want it. So, here is the part of, who wins. Well, this is not a who wins. I'm trying to figure out the debate. This is just a, friendly askment on saying, who wins in a fight? I've heard some arguments for Edward, but I've mostly seen arguments for Harry. And I believe Harry would win. I just think that he has more abilities. I think he's more versatile. He has the better arsenal than Edward. I think he's a little bit more faster. And just because there's similarities, well, it just okay, they're on similar levels, but according to Versus Battle Wiki, Edward stomps. But the arguments there are bad, really bad. But Harry should win. And it's very good because we really, 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 really need a Harry win. Like, we desperately need it. Though most of his fights, he loses. Overall, I just think, well, I have no idea why, but my preferred for Harry before was Timmy Turner. Please don't ask. But also, I think that I'd like to see Harry versus Twilight Sparkle, because both of them were people that were not originally gifted with magic. They were gifted magic, and both of them go to a school of some kind to learn magic. And both of them seem to be the best and smartest people in there. And, yeah. And both of them go on quests to defeat a big evil with group force. And, they eventually succeed, but that villain eventually comes back. And that villain is very, very old, relating to something in the past. I don't care if the fight were to happen. Oh, and they also have the similarity of Twilight and Harry of being freaking they usually, like, well, that's all the connections I can think of, but I think they might have a similarity of them, being the future Sorcerer Supreme. Well, no, not that, but yeah, they both, okay, so Harry Potter also has Doctor Strange, because both of them are Sorcerer Supreme. Both of them were normal people that were gifted with magic and have multiple spells. But Harry gets absolutely crap stomped by him. Edward Elric has Ragna. Like I said earlier, he also has, I don't know. But let's talk about other fights for them. Yeah, it's been a little while since my last Versus talk. Anyway, so the other fights for them, I said Ragna versus Edward Elric, Twilight Sparkle versus Harry Potter, Timmy Turner versus Harry Potter, Onward versus Ian Lightfoot versus Harry Potter, because both of them were not gifted with magic. Both of them were seen as normal people, but both of them were gifted with magic, and both of them didn't know that their family was related to magic themselves. Though this is a non-magic generation, like, I could see it happening. Then there's Robin from Fire Emblem. That is it was my preferred. But yeah. Oh, I just thought of Zuko versus Harry Potter. But the fight sucks. Get out of my face. Okay, I'm gonna explain the similarities first. Both of them were normal people that were given scars that they have on their face forever. But anyway, I don't know any other fights for Edward. Just a minute, I'm just gonna go on a Google search and I'm gonna see if Edward has other matchups that are not Ragna. Please, for the love of God. Please, for the love of God, don't be Ragna. So I looked, and I had to put all the matches on a piece of paper. He has Tanjiro Kamado, he has Josuke, he has Joseph Joestar, he has Toph, he has Overhaul for some reason. He has Momo from My Hero Academia. He also has Guts, Asta, and Natsu. I hear Josuke is his best option out of all of those. But no, yeah, I know both of them are people that are strongly Saiyan over something. Hair and tight. That's about it. And somehow he has Yang from Ruby. Why? But out of all of those options, Harry is still my favorite. It's his best matchup, and it is also Harry's best matchup. Fight me on it. Well, you don't fight me on it. It's my opinion. Sorry, but Percy Jackson. I don't get the connections between Harry and Percy. Percy stops. This is close. Like, limited similarities and almost unlimited similarities. They have the limit of death battle, and this has over the limit of death battle. Oh my God, how many? I counted, again, they have 38 similarities. 38. I'm not kidding. They really do have 38. Maybe. But if they were to do Josuke, Josuke's definitely gonna fight you instead. Well, not you watching this video. I'm talking about you from Persona 4. But, Harry can just, he could fight Twilight Sparkle, but I do see Timmy Turner versus Twilight Sparkle. That's a matchup that will never make sense to me. I just don't get that fight. I just really don't get what they have in common. It's all because they're cartoon characters that use magic, and both of them were not gifted with magic, then were given magic, then also have a source to get magic, and both of them were not really the ones casting the magic. I just don't know their similarities. I'm just guessing. But not for Aaron Elric versus Harry Potter. The Chad connections alone makes me want this. There's so much animation potential you can do. There's so much banter potential. And above them all, okay, I forgot to talk about Roy versus Levi. Both of them are the leaders of a group that is an. Both of them are the leaders of an army with the main character in them that were made specifically to hunt down evil. I'm getting away from this. Let's talk about Harry Potter for a minute. Harry Potter has to be one of my favorite fantasy movies of all time. But second place is Onward. But yeah, the Harry Potter Sorcerer's Stone is pretty good. But for the final part of this, I just wish you have a happy new year. And speaking of which, I have no idea why I put that in there, just for a random reason. Anyway, I hope you have a happy new year. See ya later, guys.